Lena Gray had lived on the station long enough to know when things changed, even if no one spoke about it. The change did not come with an announcement or a written order. It arrived quietly, like a door closing somewhere far away. At first, Lena thought she was imagining it. People still nodded when they passed her in the halls. Her work schedule still appeared on her console. Nothing looked different on the surface. Yet something felt wrong. The station was a wide circle of metal and light, always humming, always moving. It was home to many kinds of people from many places, all following shared rules meant to keep peace. Lena had once believed those rules protected everyone. Now she was not so sure. She moved through the corridors with the same calm steps as before, but the space around her felt thinner, less welcoming. Lena's difference was not written in any file she could access. There was no clear label she could point to. It lived in small things. Her eyes reflected light in a way others found strange. Her reactions were slower, more thoughtful. She listened more than she spoke. On a station that valued speed, confidence, and clear purpose, her quiet ways stood out. At first the changes were small. Her name was removed from group tasks and replaced with solo duties. She was reassigned from central systems to outer maintenance zones, places few people visited unless they had to. The work was not harder, just lonelier. She told herself it was temporary. Reassignments happened all the time. Still no one explained why. When Lena asked her supervisor if she had made a mistake, the answer came quickly and without warmth. She was told the station needed her skills elsewhere. That was all. The conversation ended there. No questions were invited. Lena nodded and returned to work, carrying the answer like a weight she could not set down. Days passed. Then weeks. Lena noticed how people stopped inviting her to shared meals. When she entered common areas, conversations softened or shifted away from her. Not sharply, not with anger, but with careful distance. It was as if everyone had agreed without meeting to step aside. She ate alone more often. She worked alone almost always. The station's lights still followed their cycles. The air still smelled clean and recycled. Everything functioned as it should. Only Lena felt like she was slipping out of place, like a loose piece in a well-built machine. She told herself not to take it personally. Stations were busy. People were focused. She reminded herself that silence did not always mean rejection. Still, the quiet followed her everywhere. It filled the maintenance tunnels where she worked and echoed in the narrow rest areas where she paused to eat. Lena's new tasks kept her far from the station's heart. She repaired panels, checked sensors, and monitored systems that rarely failed. The work required patience more than speed, attention more than strength. She was good at it. She always had been. Yet no one commented on her performance anymore. Praise had faded along with conversation. Sometimes she watched crews pass through the corridors, laughing, sharing news, planning future assignments. She wondered if she had ever been part of that noise or if she had only imagined it. Memory felt unreliable when the present was so quiet. The station log still listed her as active. Her access code still worked. But Lena felt less seen with each passing cycle. When she reported completed tasks, responses came later than before, often short and impersonal. No one asked follow-up questions. No one suggested improvements. It was as if her work existed without her. At night, in her small quarters, Lena sat by the narrow window and looked out at space. Stars drifted slowly past, distant and cold. She found comfort in their steady light. They did not judge. They did not avoid her. They simply existed, unchanged by opinion. She thought about leaving. The idea surfaced more often than she liked to admit. There were other stations, other worlds. But leaving required approval, and approval required notice. Being noticed felt harder than staying invisible. So she stayed. The station did not punish Lena openly. That was the hardest part. No one yelled. No one threatened. There was no rule she could challenge, no order she could appeal. The station simply stopped reaching for her, and over time, that absence became a message. Lena adapted the way she always had. She became quieter. She moved with care. She focused on her tasks and avoided drawing attention. If fading was expected, she would fade gently without causing trouble. That thought hurt more than she allowed herself to feel. One cycle, as she finished a repair in a remote corridor, Lena paused longer than usual. The lights hummed softly above her. The station felt endless and empty. She rested her hand against the cool metal wall and closed her eyes. For a moment, she wondered if anyone would notice if she stopped showing up entirely. The thought frightened her. She opened her eyes and straightened. She was still here. She still mattered even if the station forgot it. She told herself that difference was not failure. Quiet was not weakness. Still, doubt lingered like a shadow she could not step out of. Lena returned to her work, carrying on as she always did. She did not know that someone new would soon arrive, someone who had learned what it meant to lose a place in the world. For now, she was alone, marked by silence, moving through the station as if becoming part of its background. And the station, busy and bright, continued on, unaware that it was letting one of its own slowly fade. Aaron Blake arrived on the station without ceremony, carrying only a small case of tools and a past he did not speak about. He was older than most of the engineers assigned to repair work, his hair already touched with gray, his movements steady and careful. The station logs listed him as a widowed human engineer, skilled in aging systems and long-term maintenance. That description was accurate but incomplete. Aaron had learned long ago how to move through places without drawing attention. Loss had taught him that noise did not heal anything. Since his wife had died years before, he preferred quiet spaces, simple routines and work that spoke for itself. The station suited him in that way. It was large, orderly and distant from memory. His first days were filled with inspections. Panels that needed reinforcement. Power lines that showed signs of wear. Systems built decades earlier that still worked but needed careful hands. Aaron moved through the corridors with calm focus, listening more than speaking, observing patterns others ignored. It was during one of these inspections that he first noticed Lena Gray. She was working alone in a maintenance section near the outer ring. The corridor was narrow, rarely used, and far from the busy center. Aaron noticed her because she was exactly where no one else was. She knelt beside an open panel, her tools laid out with careful order. Her movements were slow, thoughtful, and precise. Aaron did not speak at first. He watched from a distance, not out of suspicion but recognition. He knew that posture. He had worn it himself for years. The posture of someone who had learned not to expect interruption. Lena finished her task and closed the panel, running a final check before standing. She noticed Aaron only then and paused. Her expression was neutral, but her body stiffened slightly, as if ready for instruction or correction. Aaron nodded once. "System looks stable," he said. "Thank you," Lena replied. Her voice was soft but steady. That was all. Aaron moved on and Lena returned to her work. The exchange was small, forgettable to most. To Aaron it stayed with him. Over the next few cycles he saw her again and again. Always alone. Always working in quiet areas. Always careful. He noticed how others passed her without stopping, how conversations never followed her into the corridors. The pattern felt familiar in a way that made his chest ache. Aaron did not ask questions. He did not search her records. He simply watched. He noticed how she checked systems twice. How she paused to listen to the station itself, as if hearing something others missed. He noticed how she ate alone when their schedules crossed, choosing the edges of shared spaces. Her silence did not feel empty to him. It felt full, like a room holding memories. Aaron remembered being the same after his wife's death. The way people had looked at him differently. The way invitations had slowly stopped. Not out of cruelty but discomfort. Loss made others uneasy. Quiet made them unsure. One cycle, Aaron found himself assigned to a repair near Lena's section. He worked nearby without speaking, the soft sounds of tools filling the space between them. After a while Lena spoke. "You're new," she said. "Relatively," Aaron replied. She nodded. "The station has habits." "So do people," Aaron said. She glanced at him, surprised, then looked back to her work. "Yes." They did not speak again that cycle. They did not need to. Aaron felt something settle inside him, a sense of rightness he had not felt in a long time. As days passed, Aaron began timing his breaks to match hers, not to intrude but to share space. Sometimes they sat in silence. Sometimes they exchanged a few words about work. Never about personal things. That was fine. Silence was enough. Aaron noticed how Lena seemed to relax slightly when he was nearby. Her shoulders lowered. Her movements eased. It reminded him how much weight quiet isolation could carry. He also noticed how others watched them. Not closely, not openly, but with mild curiosity. A human engineer choosing the edges instead of the center. Sitting with the quiet one. It was unusual. Aaron did not care. He had learned that healing often began with simple presence. One evening as they worked side by side, Lena spoke without looking up. "You don't avoid me." Aaron paused, then smiled faintly. "No," he said. "I don't." She nodded once. That was all. Aaron continued his work, aware that something small had already changed. He did not see himself as a rescuer. He did not think in terms of saving. He only knew what it felt like to fade, and he refused to let silence decide who mattered. For the first time since arriving, the station felt less cold. Aaron Blake did not change Lena Gray's life with a single act. There was no clear moment that marked the beginning. Instead, it happened slowly, through small choices that felt almost ordinary. He began by helping her without making it seem important. When a panel jammed, he held it steady. When a diagnostic tool lagged, he recalibrated it and handed it back without comment. He never took over her work. He never corrected her unless she asked. He simply worked beside her, as if that had always been the plan. Lena noticed the difference right away, even if she did not understand it at first. She was used to people passing by her work areas without stopping, their steps quick and distant. Aaron's footsteps were different. They slowed near her. Sometimes they stopped. Sometimes they turned back. He did not rush her. He did not sigh when systems took longer than expected. He waited. At first, Lena remained careful. She thanked him politely and kept her words short. Years of being ignored had taught her not to expect more. But Aaron did not leave after helping. He stayed nearby, checking adjacent systems, giving her space without withdrawing. The quiet between them felt steady, not empty. Their shared meals began the same way. Aaron would enter the cafeteria with his tray and scan the room. He never made a show of choosing her table. He simply walked over and sat down as if there were no other option worth considering. Lena always looked up in mild surprise, even after it had happened several times. They did not talk much at first. Aaron ate slowly, never staring, never pushing for conversation. Lena found herself eating more comfortably than before. The old tension in her shoulders eased little by little. Silence shared felt different from silence forced. One cycle, Lena spoke first. She commented on a system update that had caused delays. Aaron listened without interrupting, nodding once or twice. When she finished, he said, "That makes sense," and nothing more. The simple response caught her off guard. She was used to explanations being ignored or questioned. Being understood so easily felt strange. After that, she spoke more often. Not long speeches, just thoughts, observations, small frustrations. Aaron listened every time. He never dismissed her concerns. He never rushed her words. He let pauses exist. Lena realized slowly that she did not feel small when she spoke to him. The station noticed the change before Lena did. Supervisors saw reports completed more quickly. Maintenance requests from Lena's section came back detailed and clear. Her attendance remained perfect, but now there was energy in her work that had not been there before. She moved with purpose instead of caution. No one commented on it openly, but eyes followed her more often. Aaron's presence was noticed too. A human engineer choosing to work in low-traffic areas, choosing the edges instead of the center. Some found it odd. Others found it unimportant. No one saw a reason to interfere. He broke no rules. He followed protocol. He simply chose his company. As cycles passed, Lena found herself waiting for the times when Aaron's schedule crossed hers. The realization made her uneasy at first. Dependence felt dangerous. But this was different. Aaron did not replace her strength. He reminded her it existed. One evening as they worked late, Lena spoke about her past. Not in detail, not all at once. Just fragments. She talked about being moved from assignment to assignment. About how people stopped asking for her input. About how silence grew until it felt like a judgment. Aaron listened, his hands still, his attention complete. When she finished, he said only, "That sounds lonely." The words landed softly but deeply. Lena had not realized how much she needed someone to name it. "Yes," she said quietly. After that, the wall she had built around herself began to thin. She smiled more, small and cautious at first, then easier. She stood straighter. She corrected others when they made mistakes, her voice calm but firm. People listened. Meals became something she no longer dreaded. Aaron was not always there, but others began to sit nearby. Not always to talk. Sometimes just to share space. Lena noticed that when she spoke now, heads turned toward her instead of away. Aaron never pushed her forward. He did not introduce her to others or speak on her behalf. He trusted her to step into her place at her own pace. That trust mattered more than protection. The station continued its routines. Systems aged. Repairs were made. Life moved forward. But something subtle had shifted. Lena was no longer fading. She was present. One cycle, Lena realized she had laughed. The sound surprised her. It had been so long since it came easily that she barely recognized it. Aaron looked up and smiled, not wide, not proud, just warm. "You sound lighter," he said. She considered this. "I feel lighter," she replied. The station noticed but still did nothing. There was nothing to stop. Nothing to correct. Two people working together. Sharing meals. Talking. It was ordinary. And that was why it mattered. Lena no longer felt like a shadow moving through metal halls. She felt like a person again. Not because she had been saved but because she had been seen. And Aaron, watching her reclaim herself, felt something inside him ease as well. Helping her did not fill the space his loss had left, but it softened it. It reminded him that connection did not always hurt. Sometimes it healed quietly. The station remained silent on the matter, and that silence, for once, was kind. The notice arrived without warning, just like everything else on the station that mattered. It appeared on Lena Gray's console at the end of a long work cycle, written in careful, neutral language. Her assignment was under review. Her access would be limited until further notice. She was to report to administrative review within 3 cycles. Lena stared at the screen longer than she needed to. She had seen messages like this before, though never this direct. Before, changes came quietly. This time, the silence had been replaced with formality. It felt heavier. She finished her work and shut down her tools with steady hands. She did not panic. Years of quiet exclusion had taught her how to stay calm when the ground shifted beneath her. Still, something inside her tightened. Being moved aside was one thing. Being removed completely was another. Aaron Blake noticed the change the next cycle. He saw it in the way Lena moved through the corridor, slower than usual, her shoulders drawn in. He saw it in her eyes when she greeted him, still polite but distant. When he asked if everything was fine, she hesitated before answering. "They're reviewing my placement," she said. Aaron stopped walking. "Reviewing how?" "They haven't said yet." He nodded, but his jaw tightened. He had seen reviews like this before, on other stations and other places. They rarely ended well for people who already stood apart. That evening, Aaron requested access to the review file. As a senior engineer brought in to stabilize aging systems, he had enough standing to ask questions. The request was granted after a delay. The file was thin. Too thin. There were no records of failure. No reports of misconduct. No safety concerns. Only vague language about compatibility, efficiency, and harmony. Words that sounded reasonable until you looked too closely. Words that explained nothing. Aaron closed the file and sat back. He felt a familiar anger rise, slow and controlled. This was not about work. It never had been. The next day, an official meeting was scheduled. Lena was asked to attend. Aaron was not. He went anyway. The room was small and clean, designed to feel neutral. 3 officials sat at one side of the table. Lena stood at the other, hands folded, posture careful. She looked smaller than usual in the wide space. Aaron entered quietly and took a seat beside her. One of the officials looked up. "You are not listed for this review." "I requested to be here," Aaron said calmly. "This is an internal matter." "So is system stability," Aaron replied. "And Lena works on systems critical to long-term function." There was a pause. The officials exchanged glances. Finally, one nodded. "You may stay." Lena looked at Aaron, surprise clear on her face. He met her eyes briefly, steady and reassuring. The review began with soft words and careful tones. The officials spoke about restructuring. About balance. About the need to reduce strain on station operations. Lena listened without interrupting. She had learned when silence was expected of her. When they finished, Aaron spoke. "You're removing her," he said. It was not a question. One official shifted in their seat. "We are reassigning resources." Aaron leaned forward slightly. "She has done nothing wrong." No one said she had. "Then why remove her access?" Another pause. "Some individuals create difficulty." Aaron nodded once. "For whom?" The room grew quiet. "She works alone," one official said. "She does not integrate easily." Aaron's voice remained even. That was not her choice. The official frowned. "This is about efficiency." Aaron shook his head. "It's about comfort. And comfort is not a valid reason to erase someone." Lena's hands tightened, but she did not speak. Aaron continued. "Her work records are clean. Her output has improved. The only change is that people have noticed her again." "That is not relevant," an official said. "It is," Aaron replied. "Because now you are being asked to justify what was once ignored." Silence stretched across the room. Outside, the station hummed, unaware. "If you remove her," Aaron said, "I will not assist with the reassignment of her systems. I will document every gap, every risk, and I will make it clear why it exists." "That sounds like a threat," one official said. It's a boundary, Aaron replied. I won't cooperate with something unjust. Lena looked at him, stunned. No one had ever spoken like this for her. Not without anger. Not without raising their voice. Aaron remained calm, steady, impossible to dismiss. The officials asked for time. The meeting ended without resolution. Word spread quickly. Not as rumor but as curiosity. A human engineer had refused to cooperate. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just firmly. People began to ask why. They looked at Lena's records. They saw what Aaron had seen. Questions followed. Why had she been isolated? Why had no one objected before? Why had silence been enough? Others began to feel uncomfortable with their own inaction. A supervisor requested a second review. Another asked for clarification. The quiet punishment that had once gone unnoticed now stood under light. Lena returned to her work with uncertainty twisting inside her. She did not know what would happen. But something felt different. The station felt less closed, less fixed. Aaron stayed nearby, not hovering, not shielding. Just present. A few cycles later, a new notice appeared. Lena's access was restored. Her assignment remained unchanged. The review was closed. No apology followed. No announcement. But something important had broken. People began speaking more openly. They admitted they had gone along with the quiet exclusion because it was easier. Because no one challenged it. Now someone had. Lena felt a strange mix of relief and disbelief. She had not asked to be defended. Yet here she was, still standing. She met Aaron in the corridor that evening. You didn't have to do that, she said softly. I know, he replied. That's why it mattered. Around them, the station continued as always. But something had shifted. The silence that once erased now questioned itself. And that made all the difference. Lena Gray returned to full duty without ceremony. There was no announcement, no gathering, no words spoken aloud to mark the change. Her access codes worked again. Her name returned to shared task lists. Messages addressed her directly instead of through empty systems. The station did not admit it had been wrong, but it no longer pretended she was invisible. The first cycle after the review closed, Lena walked into the central maintenance hub and felt something new. People looked up when she entered. Not with surprise, not with caution, but with recognition. A few nodded. One person asked a simple question about a repair schedule. Lena answered calmly, clearly, and without hesitation. The exchange felt normal, and that alone made her heart beat faster. She took her place at a shared work table and began reviewing system logs. Her hands moved with confidence she had almost forgotten she had. The tools felt familiar again, not like borrowed objects but like extensions of her own skill. She was where she belonged, not because someone allowed it, but because she had always earned it. Aaron Blake watched from a short distance away. He did not hover. He did not smile too much or look for signs of gratitude. He simply noted the way Lena stood straighter, the way her voice carried more weight. He felt a quiet satisfaction settle in his chest. Not pride. Not victory. Just peace. Helping her had helped him too, though he would never say it out loud. Since his wife's death, Aaron had lived carefully, avoiding deep connection, afraid of losing again. Standing beside Lena had reminded him that loss did not mean the end of purpose. It meant choosing where to place what remained. They still shared meals, but now they sat among others. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. Silence was no longer a sign of isolation. It was simply space to breathe. Lena noticed the difference in herself most during quiet moments. She no longer questioned whether she should speak. She no longer felt the need to shrink her presence. When problems came up, she addressed them directly. When she had ideas, she shared them. People listened. One cycle, a junior technician asked her for advice. The question caught her off guard. She answered carefully, then realized the technician was taking notes. The sight made her smile when she turned away. The station adjusted in small ways. Teams rotated more freely. Assignments became more balanced. People began to notice patterns they had once ignored. Not because they were ordered to, but because someone had shown them that silence was a choice. Aaron continued his work on aging systems, moving from section to section as needed. When asked about the review incident, he waved it off. It wasn't about rules, he said once. It was about people. Those words spread quietly. Beyond the station, reports were filed. Other habitats read them. A human engineer had refused to cooperate with quiet removal. A human had stood firm without threat or force. It was noted, then noted again. Humanity's reputation shifted, not through power or command but through steady presence. They were not known as loud or aggressive. They were known as the ones who noticed who was missing from the room. Lena stood by the viewing window one evening watching stars drift past. She remembered how she used to stand there alone, feeling small against the dark. Now the stars felt different. Still distant, still vast, but no longer cold. Aaron joined her, standing beside her without comment. "I don't feel like I'm fading anymore," Lena said. Aaron nodded. "You never were," he replied. "People just stopped looking." She considered this, then smiled. They did not speak again. They did not need to. The station lights dimmed as night cycle began. Systems hummed. Life continued. Lena Gray worked, spoke, and lived fully, no longer a shadow moving through metal halls. And Aaron Blake, widowed and quiet, found that standing beside someone else had brought him back to himself as well. Among the stars that mattered.